email us, or connect with us on social media.
Don't forget to tune in to Grey County Life on Rogers TV next week,
as we talk to Jim McManaman about the Owen Sound Minor Soccer.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university, so they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm David Shearman. Welcome to Rogers TV COVID-19 special programming, where we touch on all kinds of experiences and people across Grey Bruce as we talk about COVID-19. All right, my guest today is Jennifer Miller. Jennifer is the Executive Director of the Reach Center here in Owen Sound. And the Reach Center is an interesting place. I'm going to use the word place because that really kind of describes it, doesn't it, Jennifer? It's a place, a special place, too.
It is. It's a very special place. It's sort of one of a kind in our area. And it's a charity that provides programming for youth and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Now, the Reach Center itself has had an interesting journey. And it's journeyed across the city. It's had several locations, has it not?
Well, technically, we had one other location, which was George and Shore's Education Center. But when this pandemic hit a year ago already now, George and Shore shut down and didn't reopen when we were approved to recommence on-site programming. So we had to find another space. So we were, for this last summer, we were in the New Life Center. They were kind enough to let us use their facility for the summer program. But at the end of the summer, they had renters and people that needed the space, so we had to find another space. Then we were at the Lutheran Church. They were kind enough to let us come in and use their space to deliver modified programs. We were there until we broke for Christmas on December 17th. And now we're in our forever home, and that's the last of it.
You've had enough of being nomads, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a challenge being at the mercy of donated space. We wouldn't be where we were without it to get us started and get us going, but it has its challenges. This pandemic has made those challenges much more apparent and difficult to navigate.
And particularly when you're dealing with a group of people who have unique needs as well and unique requirements. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they tend to like order. They tend to like regular things to happen on a regular basis.
I think that's a fair summary. Yes, they like consistency, structure. Change is challenging for this population. It's an important part of their coping strategies to know what's happening next and when and where and all of those pieces so they can prepare themselves to be successful. And when you're constantly throwing change in the mess, it makes it really, really difficult for them to be able to figure out whether they're safe, whether they're okay. And so stable space is pretty critical for them.
So you've got a new home on 8th Ave East. And just so that people know where it is, I could, if I really wanted to say I was an old Owen Sounder, I'd say, yeah, just up the street from the Beach Brothers. That predates your time in Owen Sound, I know. But if I were to say it's the old Donate to Create place I think a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, I remember that building. It's kind of a low ranch style building that right on 8th Street East, and it's kind of unique, and but it's there and it's your home.
It is, yeah. It's a fantastic space for our purposes. It's just over 4,000 square feet, but it's all one level, which is great for anyone with ambulatory accessibility issues. And we have an extensive renovations on the property to make it a completely barrier-free and accessible, inclusive space. So, yeah, it was perfect for us. We have more things to do on the exterior to leverage every square inch, but right now we're back up and running inside, and it's pretty spectacular what's been accomplished. I will also say that the extensive work that was done inside was done primarily by volunteers. There's a sort of a core group of individuals that were tireless in their efforts to get it done, which led by a gentleman, Rob Croft, and then a group of parents and other gentlemen, literally at the end 7 days a week to make it happen. So very, very grateful for their efforts, and the result of it is the participants are quite happy. It's like they've always been there, and they just started day one, and off we were to the races.
Well, in some ways, the pandemic might have been beneficial because you could work uninterrupted, although I'm sure it was a challenge to do the work.
It was a challenge. We met, with public health and made sure we were following all of the safety protocols required, but things that you don't think about, like procurement of materials, was a challenge during the shutdown. Making sure that we had what we needed to get the job done was almost a full-time gig in and of itself. Coordinating trades, they wanted exclusive use of the space to get stuff done, so their people were safe, so a lot of logistics around making sure to accommodate all of those needs to keep everybody feeling good about being part of the project. So yeah, was a lot of moving parts, but well worth it. Well worth it.
Now, you also have we're running programming in that time, as you said, from a variety of homes. Did you find that the programming was difficult to continue during COVID?
Well, within 2 weeks of the shutdown, we had pivoted to an online delivery model. So we mobilized technology. We had Zoom figured out and transfer of skills to program participants and caregivers to access that. I had staff trained on using Zoom, and we were delivering a modified program remotely. We also launched a web portal where we're having weekly activities uploaded to try to mitigate some of the effects of isolation and stress and anxiety. As literally, we had the Peanut Butter Falcon sold out event on March 9th. And then by the end of that week, we were sort of in shutdown with no ability for them to process what was happening or why. So it was pretty important for them mentally and emotionally, and for their well-being overall, to be pretty agile and adapt to find some way to ensure that they knew their friends were safe and reach was okay. And this was a temporary thing that we were all in together, but we were going to get through. And so a lot of work. My team is spectacular, which is led by Mary Lou Strymus. And I'm just truly blessed. There's my doorbell. Told you it was a 50-50 chance.
Well, we're all used to that these days with virtual meetings and everything. At least I've been in meetings where people's cats have crawled right into the screen and right into somebody's lap. So a dog barking is absolutely not a problem at all, Jennifer.
Good.
So you were able to change the program, modify the program, but meet the needs of the people who are a part of the Reach Center. And that must have taken a fair bit of work.
Yeah, it was definitely a team effort. Thousands of phone calls to program participants and caregivers to monitor well-being were logged and tracked. Zoom chats. It was a lot. It was I'm very proud of what we accomplished, and that we were able to implement so quickly, this particularly with this population. And then, come July, we were the first in the province approved to reopen. So when we opened, again at New Life Center, it was a modified program model. So we had smaller groups because the space dictated how many people we could safely accommodate. So it was trying to be equitable with opportunity and make sure everyone had at least one day that needed a day of respite to come. But it posed its own challenges because I had caregivers in crisis that needed to return to work, and sometimes more than one job, and no safe space for their adult dependent to be in order to do that. But we figured it out, and we had to hire staff that literally disinfected between streams and every activity, and after every single bathroom use. Our protocols were more rigid than was imposed at the hospital, just because our population is vulnerable. So we took every single precaution we possibly could, which, if you look at it as a charity, that's a fee-for-service model. So we charge families to come to the program, and they get reimbursed through passport funding to attend because we're approved by Developmental Services Ontario. We don't get any government funding. So we had increase in staff, reduction in the number of on-site program participants, and still kept open the portal and Zoom support for families regardless. So it was quite an undertaking. And as I said, my team were our rock stars, really, because they too had their own families and were trying to navigate the pandemic and the fears and anxiety that we all sort of went through when it first started. Was a pretty neat undertaking, and coming out the other side of it, lots of lessons learned. We still have a hybrid model of delivery we're doing right now, small groups and small different spaces. We're continuing to provide Zoom because, believe it or not, we do have some program participants that are still in isolation over a year later that haven't had that peer connection or contact. It's heartbreaking, but they live in complex medical needs situations or institutional settings or group homes that are precluded from allowing them to attend. So in order to keep them connected to their peers, we're continuing with the Zoom supports, even though we're back to on-site program delivery.
It's interesting you mentioned some of these people, but when you use the word special needs, it means literally special needs, because everyone would have a unique set of challenges that they face, and yet you're able to continue to provide them with service, but most importantly with community.
Yeah, which cannot be undervalued for this population. That need to be sort of included and connected is very, very important for the mental and emotional well-being of these individuals. And you're quite right. I mean, there are no two sets of needs alike for any of the 40 families we support. Like there's, one participant has got almost unique, complete set of needs than the person beside them. So that's in and of itself a challenge. But looking for those common denominators, and one, you're absolutely right, is sort of community, friendship, and connection.
I was looking at the list of local organizations that have helped get to the place where it is, and it's quite wonderful to see the significant number of local organizations. I mean, you of course there's things like the Bruce Power and United Way and the Community Foundation, but there's a lot of private businesses that have stepped up, and it's almost like a who's who of our business community that have said, yeah, hey, this is something we want to support too. And I'm sure it was not just cash; it was quite probably services that they donated.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It's been humbling to say the least, but heartwarming as well. I mean, Troy Fire and Safety did our whole security system. So it was an in-kind contribution, but it's huge, and spent hours, retrofitting the building to make sure the space was safe and secure for the participants in it. So we've had been very, very blessed with the support of this community that know, because perhaps we get no government funding, or because we're a pretty lean operation, everything we get goes back into the program and the individuals. So it's now understood, because we are transparent. If you want to support a cause that's impactful, and 99 of your $100 goes directly into supporting the vision and the program and the participants themselves, this is the agency. So yeah, we've been very, very, very blessed. And we are very grateful for it. I mean, we still have stuff to do.
Pictures of the new building, and I think if my producer can put them up, I'll leave him to do the magic, and they should appear shortly. But it sounds like you've really had a major overhaul of the building.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone would recognize it, but it's a pretty cool, funky, bright, more urban adult space. That's theirs. It's there's nothing institutional about it. There's nothing. It's a fun space that they are feeling welcome, and it's theirs. They took ownership of it almost instantaneously. And it's fully accessible, which is pretty epic. We have an accessible teaching kitchen, which is just massive. Life skills room, a learning shop, a recreational fitness space. We have a creative arts and expression space, which is particularly important for nonverbal participants to have a space to create and connect. We have a lounge. We have a games area. Yeah, it's pretty neat. And plans for the outside. I want to put in a patio and some accessible raised gardens, the south facing part in the back of the building, and we need a new roof and all the rest of it. But we'll get there.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. It sounds like I say, it was a major renovation, and we're not getting those pictures, but we may get them yet. And we'll be able to go to them. But one of the things that you touched on a moment ago is that you have work to do, but you referred to as you're a nonprofit, you're a charitable organization, so that people can make donations to the Reach Center. Okay, and we won't. I just got a message. We will not see those pictures. They've been there. But
Okay.
we see them, so that's okay. That's all right. But one of the things that you mentioned was that you are a nonprofit. You're a charitable organization. You can issue tax receipts for charitable gifts, and the Reach Center is where can people send those gifts? Just for information's sake.
Yeah, well, we have a website, reachcenter.org/ways to give. And that has, we have a PayPal account. We have a CanadaHelps.org account if you want to do that. But you can mail them in, or come drop them off and say hi. It's 369 8th Street East in Owen Sound, N4K1L3.
Terrific. Because one of the things that is always helpful to know for people is that the gifts are receivable, and well used. I think I heard you say something like 99% goes direct to the work of Reach Center. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything goes back into the program. So.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So our as I explained, our funding model is fee for service. So there's a fee at $65 a day for 7 hours of program instruction. And they get, an hour of life skills, nutrition and health, fitness and wellness, art and creative expression. And we have social enterprise, where we look for opportunities to provide labor market experience as transferable skills for independence. And that covers most of our staffing costs, so we fundraise for the other stuff. So staffing and operations, but we do need to fundraise for cheese and paint brushes and all those good things, because we're always up to something and getting into something and doing something. So not the same somethings we did before the COVID, but again, we're being creative and changing it up and doing all kinds of fun things. So yeah, it's a great program, and people are welcome to shoot me a message, ed@reachcenter.org, to ask if they want a tour. We typically do those on Fridays, just so it doesn't disrupt programming. But anybody can reach out at any time and come and visit us or say hi or get involved. I mean, we can't have volunteers right now, but we do rely on the support of our volunteers, and there's an application on our website under Join Us. We also have some limited space left to accept new participants in the program because of the size of the just over 4,000. We can safely accommodate some more people, but still keep within our 6-to-1 facilitator participant ratio. So we have space, I think, on Mondays and Wednesdays left. The rest is getting full. And we hope things go well and we'll be able to have a summer program and all the rest of those fun things.
Now, what's the catchment area that the Reach Center serves? All of Grey Bruce, or
Yes.
what? So you've got people who come from the southern parts of both counties?
Yeah, from Port Elgin, Tobermory, they drive each day, drop off and go to work. So that gives you an idea of how much of a need this agency and our program fills, and there is nothing else. There is no other option for families other than Reach. There are other agencies that provide some supports to this population, and they have some great programs, like Community Living has some great programs. But they're, 1 hour here or 2 hours there. And if you're a working caregiver or it's kind of tricky to leave work, take Johnny to a program for 2 hours and go back and pick up and get back to work. You're not going to be gainfully employed for long. So we are the only day program that's actually structured around supporting the family as a whole unit. So.
Do you work with the families as well, not just the individuals?
We do. We try to support families, again, individualized plans for each participant of goals, things that are working on or important at home, life and direction goals set by the families we try to reinforce. When you become a participant at the agency, we say that you've joined Reach family, and it's very much like that. We are in very close contact with our caregivers. For the well-being of the priorities, the success and well-being of the participants, and that requires sort of an ongoing and open dialogue and communication, because every day is a different day, but we're all on the same team and working for the same objective, right? So to have the best quality of life and experience as possible.
Yeah, I don't think people realize the stress and the strain and the uniqueness of families of children with special needs. I was talking to someone yesterday who actually has to spend, because of COVID, their child goes to school in London, and because they can't, and they're in residence, they can't be in residence continually. They have to be out for a week and then back in. So what do? Well, that parent is living in a motel room, and going and picking their child up and bringing them back to a motel room during that week, and that's not cheap. That's just the kind of thing that people are doing.
Oh, this pandemic has put a pretty significant spotlight on the complete lack of advocacy and supports. It's a systemic issue for this population, but caregivers in particular have been completely negated. Their welfare has been completely negated. And we had families in crisis, without a doubt, trying to juggle and manage with no respite, no reprieve, 24/7 of some fairly significant, complex medical and behavioral needs without any support whatsoever. Trying to juggle that with work, with all other kids at home. It's been brutal for families. And sadly, with the exception of I think a whopping $600, depending on whether you qualified or not, extra funding for these families, There was nothing else. No other supports, no other opportunities, other than an expansion of what they were previously receiving. They could spend on other things like technology just for this year.
Right. Because one of the things that people might not know is that passport funding, which you referred to earlier, is based on a bills submitted basis.
Correct.
It's not money that you get every month. You have to pay it out and then submit the bill for reimbursement.
Correct. Yeah, and it's a stipend, basically, sort of like this is your annual allowance of funds that we're prepared to support. It's a floating scale. There is typically a base amount of $5,000, which doesn't go far when most of these individuals to participate in programs other than Outreach require one-to-one support. So that doesn't go very far. You have to be families have to be out of pocket and then submit for reimbursement, as you said. So managing that is a whole process in and of itself.
Sure. You mentioned that there's shown up a gap. That's okay. Well, someday I'll interview your dog. But managing these situations or advocating for these situations and these people, these families with the government, is that a part of REACH as well?
Well, technically, no, but REACH has done considerable advocacy work as a result of this pandemic. It's a situation where I'm very blessed with my leadership. I have a fantastic board of directors led by Pauline Dantas as chair, and vice chair is Karen Post. And their leadership and support throughout this has been incredible. And we've been very, very vocal trying to support this population. Talking quite a bit with Bill and Alex and anybody and everyone that will listen to say something has to be done on behalf of these families. So technically it's not within scope, but it's one of those things where in all good conscience you can't afford not to do something. So
yeah. Other duties as assigned.
There you go.
And Jennifer, knowing you as I do, I'm going to say you're probably doing a pretty effective job, at least, of raising the flag on these issues. It's something that is ongoing and is essential. And we have many marginalized populations, but this is one that kind of, I won't say gets a lot of publicity. But
right.
REACH is right. The interesting thing is REACH is right there in the downtown core. The population. It's not as if this population, these people are elsewhere. They're right there in the downtown core and in the community, and that's a great thing.
It is, and I think our community is richer for it. To be honest,
I fully agree. Believe it or not, we've come up to our time, and I want to thank you for sharing the vision of the REACH Center. And I know you do good work, and I know it's exciting stuff, and all the best in the future. And hey, maybe we'll get a camera crew in there and do a visual tour sometime, and just to see what it looks like for one of our other shows. Mark, make a note of that. Okay.
You would be most welcome.
Well, Jennifer Miller, Executive Director of the REACH Center, thank you so much for your time. Take care, and we'll see you again, friends.